What's happening? Welcome back to another episode of the Account for Life podcast. Jay Money out the accountant, and I'm helping you to account for your life. And so today, here's what we're talking about in the podcast. How does one interpret their experience or even experiences? What does that look like? What's the meaning? Experience is the meaning of experience is pretty much, what the events were like what was the practical observation of what happened, and then the interpretation is the explanation. It's like, what words do we put behind the experiences that we've had? So what's interesting about interpretation is that it's nothing like interpreting something, but it's not quite what it is. It's nothing like guessing what an interpretation is. Now, today we're just going to look at that and how that can potentially affect our life, how that can affect our business, how that can affect our health, how that can affect everything around us just by the interpretation that we have of something, some experience. So let's get into this. Or guys, you see the books behind me right up top. You see the blue one, the tan one. Go grab one of those books on Amazon if you want me to send you a copy of it signed with a note. Then you can drop a comment in the chat. Next level. So here's what's interesting about interpretation. It's kind of like my son Jared's taking Spanish class. He's been taking Spanish class, and what's it's interesting that he's actually had a hard time with the class. And so I was talking to him about it, and it's almost like how he's been experiencing and interpreting the class, and how, oh, it just seems hard. It's kind of like making his experience what it is. It's hard. It's hard to get through. Like he had to drop it the semester before last because he didn't want to fail it. So because somehow it's not getting in. So we have these experiences that we start interpreting. It's kind of like, oh, I don't know how to do that. And then because I keep saying I don't know how to do something, I don't know how to do it. Think about it. It's so simple, but yet it's so interesting. It's interesting. Why is it interesting? It's interesting because we as humans, we have the ability to define the world that we live in. We have the ability, and humans, we do it. How can I prove that to you? Here's how I can prove it. I have an office. I'm sitting in an office. 2 weeks ago, the office didn't look like this. Three weeks ago, the office didn't look like this. Now, here's what's interesting. I had this in mind to change the office a while ago. I'm not going to tell you how long it's been because it was a while. I had it in my mind to change the office. I started to change the office one day, boxed up all my books, got rid of one of my bookshelves. I kept one because I still got a bookshelf full of books, but I had like 10 boxes full of books, and I'm getting rid of everything. And then I stopped. Nothing happened. I started to interpret the experience around the situation, and I never did anything. And then one day I woke up. It's like, oh, look at this. I can create the world that I want to just by moving forward towards it. Literally just by moving forward. What was the first step that I had to make? The first step I had to make was contact my contractor. Hey, you know what? We talked about this, but I never got back to you. So when can you come back over, check out the office, and then get started? Literally the next day he comes over, he looks, hey, this is what's going to be. Pretty much the same price he gave me the last time. Wasn't even a different price, you think. I was like, wow, that's good. So he gives me the same price, and he's like, you can start tomorrow. We have the ability to shape our world. We have the ability to interpret and make the world the same way that we see it. Now, I got to be honest here. Why? Because honesty is the best policy, is what they said when I was in school. No, I'm not sure what they're teaching now, but honesty is the best policy. And my honesty here is that as much as we have control over our experience, there's some part of the experience you don't have control over. There's some part of the experience you don't have control over. Here's the experiences that we don't have control over. Anything that's external for me. What does that mean? Anything that is external for me. My wife's experience, I don't have nothing to do with that. I I mean, I can have an experience within myself and I can allow that experience to kind of come out of me, but she could reject it. I was having a conversation with my niece. Same thing. We were talking about this experience and how she realized that we all walking around in an experience. Like she was making, getting some things together with her life, and she realized that, hey, it's all here. It's all here. It's how I'm thinking about it. And then I could be looking around like, why no one else is thinking like this? No one else is experiencing this. So what happens is once we start thinking and feeding something, I'm gonna tell you what happens. There's a feedback loop that starts. I'm gonna tell you, this is a scary one. I'll be honest, this is scary. Because if we get caught in a negative feedback loop, think about this: negative coming round and round and round. Do you know it feels like one of those roller coasters, or even one of those? If you ever been in an amusement park back when we was growing up, we used to ride this ride where we would. It's a circle, right? And we would stand on the wall, and the whatever they call that circle thing, it would spin, and it would spin so fast that you would stick to the wall. Literally, you wasn't strapped in, and you would just stick to the wall. And imagine being in a feedback loop where you literally you can't come out of it, because the only way we came out of that ride was they had to stop the spinning. And once the spinning stopped, and here's what it also is. I'm seeing it in my head now. You're sticking to the wall, and while you're sticking to the wall, the floor drops down. So think about it like this: the floor drops down, and so you're literally on the wall, sticking to the wall, floating in air almost. Not really, but you're kind of floating because you are not using your feet. You are not using your feet in your body. There's some stuff on the floor. Look at that. Your feet and your body to do what you're supposed to be doing. And it's not until it slows down and then the floor comes back up. The floor comes back up. And when the floor comes back up and it slows down, then it stops. Then that's so if you were having a negative feedback loop, you would have to come to a stop before you can actually get out of the loop. I learned this concept from a coach because I was in a negative feedback loop and I did not understand it. I was having problems. I was trying to make sales on these calls with all these people. No one's taking me up on what I was offering. And it was frustrating. He says, Jay, you're in a negative feedback loop. He says, here's how you get out of a negative feedback loop. Go do something else. And usually go do something good, go help somebody, just go do something that adds value. And what happens is it stops the loop immediately. And when he showed me this, I was like, wow, that was one of the first things I learned when it came to, okay, if you want to be successful, you can't pay attention to the problems, because if I pay more attention to the problem, even though I could be aware of it, if I pay more attention to my problem, then I could potentially get swallowed up by the problem and literally, yeah, you look up and it's just problems. So how does one interpret their experiences? Here's how people interpret their experiences. They look at their reality. They look at all their problems. They look at the situations and the stuff they've been going through, and then they interpret it and they call it something. They use words because they interpret it. Once you start using words to describe something, then remember, let there be light. And there was light. When you start using your creative juices with your words to describe exactly what you think you see, remember, everything is a contract, because our eyes, the way that we see the world, is based on how we see the world on the inside. So we can change the outside world when we change the inside world. I heard one scholar say it like this. He was talking about business owners, and he says, you can't make $1 million until you become a millionaire. I'm I'm gonna say that one more time for the bleachers. You can't make $1 million if you are not a millionaire. So a person has to be a millionaire from the inside first. Hold on. I'm sorry. Got something on the floor I need to get. So you can't be a millionaire. A person cannot become or make millions of dollars until they become a millionaire on the inside. So how does one interpret their experience? How does one create an experience that they could become a millionaire? So I am a millionaire. I am a millionaire. I've been a millionaire for some time. Like it's amazing the things that we can do in our lives, in our businesses, the things we do for people. I mean, it's just on another level. You know, I'm a world class author. I'm a best selling author. My books sell millions of copies. I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly coming up and using the material, the experience that I'm actually in to write new books on ideas that people want to know about. People want to know about how to connect the dots. And my job on this planet is to take life and connect it to the things that people would like to be successful at. And I'm so successful doing it that people's lives are changing, businesses are changing, families are changing. Like people's experiences are turning into like they're taking their outer world and they're saying, hey, a second, I don't like that. Let me change that. And it's all because of the books that I've written. But here's the thing: I had to become the book writer. I had to become the book writer and the millionaire before I actually wrote a book. Before I made the millions. I became that. I remember when I chose to do this. I'm gonna go back some time here. It was around the time when I was being coached. Now I'd probably said I wanted to be a millionaire, but it was around the time just before I started being coached by the guy who taught me about the feedback loop that I started to see. It says, "Oh my goodness, it's characteristics. There are traits that a person has to have." Jim Rohn had a trait. I said, Jim Rohn is a life strategy master. I wrote that down. I want that. I'm gonna get that trait from Jim Rohn. You know, I think it was Eric Thomas was what is a master. He's number one motivational speaker. I said, I'm gonna go ahead and take that right there. I'm gonna write that down. I was like, man, Tony Robbins is like, he's the world's greatest, and coach, and he's changing the world. Yep, I'm gonna go ahead and take some of that right there. There was Grant Cardone. Oh, he's the world's best salesperson. Oh, let me get that. I wrote down like characteristics, and one of the things I said, Jesus, he's a healer. He's a parable teller. I am like that. Wrote it down. And had these characteristics. I said that, look at all these people that have these characteristics. I can't be like them, but I'm going to take a piece of what they are. I'm going to take those characteristics. I will become those. And in the process, millions. In the process, maybe even hundreds of millions, even billions. Change the world. Help people. Become the person that I know I had to be. Back on this side of my bookshelf, I've got, these are all my Dr. Miles Monroe books here. I got some over here as well. And what to do? Yeah, so these aren't Monroe, but most of these right here are Dr. Miles Monroe books. And it was the discovery, the learning of what he was doing that inspired me. So Dr. Miles wasn't on the list of people that I wanted these characteristics from. It was because he came after. Dr. Miles didn't show up to 2019. I had already picked up these characteristics in 2016, 17. So 2019, when he came and I saw what he did, I don't even have all the books. I got to get, there's a few more copies of books I have to get. And I said, man, Dr. Miles didn't, there's a number of books that he wasn't able to write. Now I'm not going to write kingdom books. That's Dr. Miles. But I said, I'm going to write. So more books than Dr. Miles wrote. Not to show him up, but as a fruit of what his life experience did for me. So that's what I plan to do. And so what's interesting is all the ideas that I've been getting for books. Some of the ideas I haven't quite gotten there yet. They're seeded. They're being seeded, and as they're being seeded, my experience and my interpretations of who I have to be is evolving. It's expanding. It's growing. See, I have this shirt on 100x expansion. That's the 100x group with Pedro Dale, and the one thing that I've been gleaning from this experience is expanding. The expansion of, I think in Isaiah it talks about we got to enlarge our tents. But in Chronicles, for the second Chronicles, the prayer of Jabez, he says, expand, enlarge my territory. We must enlarge, we must expand. And as we expand, our experience will change. So here's a warning before we get out of here. Listen to how you interpret your experience. Listen to how you interpret your experience. In your interpretation, does it help you to expand? Does it? If it does not help you to expand, then I would change the interpretation to something that helps me to expand. Whether or not it's whether or not it's physical, it doesn't have to be a physical reality. It starts out as an internal reality. That internal reality, we have the ability to take what's on the inside and bring what's on the outside. That is what is so powerful about a human being. We can take the invisible and make it visible. So if we see something in the external, in the reality, the physical reality that we do not like, we will change it from the inside first, so that how we interpret our experience is only the way that expands our life. So guys, this is the manifestation of who God said I was before there was anything. I was created before I was created. And because I was created before I was created, there's things that I know, there's things that you know from a past that literally is like, if when you reach back, because we have to reach back to get the things that we need. When you reach back to where God had the inception of you, that's where you find the experience that's worth being interpreted, so that whatever the experience is on the outside today, the things that I may not like, those things won't matter, because I'm going to reach back, pull forward the interpretation and the inception of who God said I was from the beginning. That's how you interpret your experience. We don't interpret it from the outside. We interpret it from the inside. So guys, I thank you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. Be sure to check out and get the new book, Living Life on the Next Level. And then next month, we're going to have a trilogy. We're going to have 3 books that we'll be letting you know about. Additional book, which means 3. We're going to change the world, guys. You coming with us? Let's go. Let's change the world. God bless you guys. I will see you on the next episode. Peace.
This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it